PPL has been in other states, right? They've been in many other states, lawsuits, problems. If it hasn't worked in other states, okay? It has not worked in other states. So why bring it here?
Welcome back to Finding Common Ground with Heather and Steve. Today we have Larissa Martin with us. She is a self-advocate who uses the Consumer-Directed Personal Assistant Program in New York State. It's our home care program. And she has been such a wonderful advocate for other people to learn from during this whole transition that we're going through in New York. And I wanted to bring her on today because there's an important deadline coming up when we think about this whole transition and all the things that have unfolded. A lot of people have felt unheard. Do you want to explain a little bit, Larissa, about what this is their chance to do?
Absolutely, Heather and Steve. Thank you for having me. So as far as being heard, we have a chance to have our voices be heard on August 18th when there's a Senate hearing in regards to PPL and their misconduct. We are asking people to send in written testimony so they can have their voices heard in regards to what PPL has done to them financially, emotionally, and everything in between. And what I would recommend is the more personal, the better. But share with your audience what you're comfortable with. Share in the scope of what you're comfortable with in regards to your personal story.
That's really good advice, because sometimes when I'm trying to make an argument, I start using a lot of facts and figures, and it starts sounding like I'm writing a psych report rather than talking about my daughter. And so that's something I had to keep checking myself. And I was thinking about, what do I want my testimony to be? What do I, when it's read, or in my case, I'm doing oral testimony, so I'll actually be at the hearing and be able to deliver it in person. But for everybody who wasn't called to testify, you still get that chance to put your ideas and your feelings down on paper. You can email it in. We'll include the link so you can see the email of where to send it to. If you copy in Caring Majority, they can make sure that it gets to all the right people as well. It's whatever your comfort level is, who you're sending your testimony to. And then you want to start with your connection to CDPAP. Like for me, I'm like, my name's Heather. I have 4 children with disabilities. One has 24/7 care needs, and we've been using CDPAP since 2011. That gives them a reference of who I am and why CDPAP is important to me in a general sense. And then whatever you fill in under that is your story. When did you hear about this transition? Did you know about it? Or did it catch you by surprise? Because some people had no idea this was happening until DSS sent them a letter, or their managed care program plan sent them a letter. And other people called PPL and couldn't get through, and they didn't know how to set up their accounts. And then there's other people, Steve mentioned to me when we talked the other day, that have somehow sailed right through, and it's worked out perfectly, which is wonderful. I'm so happy for them, but it just makes me think, wow, how does it be such a dramatic difference between experiences when you think some people have been able to manage it and it's gone smoothly, and then other people, no matter what they're doing, it seems like, a paycheck is not right each week, or the app is glitching, or whatever the case may be. So, Larissa, you've talked to a lot of people during this transition. Just so people have an idea, there's Caring Majority is an advocacy group, and they have a water cooler hour on Thursdays. And that's a chance just to sit around the water cooler, to say, like that phrase, and just talk to other people who are in the same situation as you. It's not like they have an agenda that they're checking off boxes. It's really an open forum for people to bring things up that are worrisome or on their mind. And if they have a trick and a tip, I love when somebody says, hey, if this is happening, try this. Like it's like we're teaching each other. We have this like internet family who somehow become, a better guide than the state in a lot of ways because we figured it out and then we share it with our internet family. So what have you noticed most when you think about the people you've talked to? What are the feelings that you hear people expressing the most?
I talk to a lot of people. They are frustrated and they want PPL out of here. They haven't been paid correctly, like you said, or not at all.
Mm-hmm. And imagine that it's April 1st they started on April Fool's Day. Mm-hmm. That's not a joke. That was really when they started.
we wish that was a joke, but it's not.
No. And so think about a person who wants to be a caregiver. A lot of caregivers are struggling, working paycheck to paycheck, right? Like this is not a job that pays a whole bunch, right? So if your paycheck, I'm going to ask you, Steve, how long would you stay at a job if your pay was either not coming on time, not coming at all, or wrong? Like how long would you stay before you said, I'm out of here, I can't do this?
I probably would be just as long with everybody else. Probably couldn't stay long financially with kids, a home. You're not going to be able to stay in a position that you're not getting paid.
Right. Or you always have to worry, right? This one caregiver said, 1 week, my check is completely accurate. I'm like, oh, yay. I finally figured it out. Like, finally, it took a few months, but now I'm all set. And the very next week, instead of getting a paycheck for 40 hours, she gets a paycheck for 12. And she said, I did everything the same. Like, why did it work last week and it's not working this week? And I think that's the hard part with PPL because just for our audience, it's a gigantic corporation. They came out of Georgia. And we used to have 600 local companies that helped us. So you could pick and choose. You could say, oh, this FI is great. They understand me. Or this one has texting. I love that. You could decide who you wanted to work with. And now we have to work with PPL. It's our only choice. And they're just a big, huge company, and they don't have a lot of staff. I mean, it is kind of insane. Have you heard any updated numbers? Because when they first started, I'll never forget they had that Q&A and it was online and they said they had hired 300 people. And I was like, why are they telling us that they only have 300 people? Because for reference, guys, there's 300,000 consumers and at the time, 425,000 caregivers. We're talking over 700,000 people are in this program. And just weeks before rollout, they tell us, hey, we hired 300 people. Don't worry, we got this.
That's not a good flex to have.
No. That was their shining moment. No.
And I think a big misconception that I want to bring up, Heather, if I may, is a lot of people assume that CDPAP and the aides that take care of people are family members, which sometimes is the case. I'm not going to lie, that is the case, and that is the case for you, right? But for me, I have two people that aren't my family. They're aides I found, and they have families of their own. So I shouldn't have to ask every week if they got paid.
No, and they shouldn't have to worry that the paycheck isn't going to be there. One thing that's been happening to my caregivers, which is insane. Okay, so they all started on April 1st and they all got the paycheck. Well, they all were in payroll right from the start. And what was I going to say? Oh, I know what I was going to say. I'm so sorry. I totally lost my train of thought because I could say a million things, guys. That's one of the things. There are so many things that have gone wrong with PPL that once you start talking about one thing, you think of 10 other things that are related. But what happens with they have this tech infrastructure that's really not meant for this many people. And it was built in Georgia, not in New York. So it doesn't mesh well with our regulations and our guidelines in our state. But beyond that, you upload a document into your PPL account, like when people were first onboarding. You put your license in, you put your social security card so they can verify your identity. You put your bank account information so they can give you a direct deposit. It's crazy, but those things that you've uploaded sometimes disappear. They're just gone. And so you're waiting for your direct deposit. You can see on your app that your times were approved by the designated rep or the consumer. You're expecting that money. It doesn't get deposited. And 10 days later, you get a paper check because they say, oh, we didn't have your bank account information. I mean, they've been direct depositing for months, and all of a sudden they're acting like we never uploaded our bank account information. It's things like that that make me crazy, because that's a lie, in my opinion. That's not the truth. They can look and see that they've been direct depositing. They have to be able to see that, correct? I mean,
Yeah.
and
They should
and I think
be.
that's the hard part, because you feel like whoever you're talking to on the phone will tell you something different. And even if that person is a truly kind person, there are people who work for PPL that are probably making $16 an hour and they're trying to pay their bills too. They're not all bad people, but they're working for a company that's setting them up. I mean, I don't know if you get a phone call from PPL, they always start it the same way for me. They say, "We're so glad that everything is going well." And I go, stop saying that. Take that right off your script. Because if you're calling me, things are not going well, okay? Like, you're calling to fix a problem, and that's a really silly way to start the conversation. So coming down to like the script, when we first were onboarding for our audience's reference point, and we would call PPL, and you would have to call, and you'd be on hold. And if you had a different language you needed, they'd hang up on you. It was terrible. But you finally get the person, and they're reading this script, and it's not right. Like, you're like, that is not what consumer-directed programs are. Like, they just describe
Or
a different...
they have to go to their supervisor.
Yes. Oh, well, my supervisor will call you back. I'm still waiting for the supervisor to call me back, for March. So just that is true. But one of the things that doesn't seem American, definitely not in New York, when we were onboarding, so the state of New York said, it's over, guys. All your local FIs are gone. We're bankrupting them. We're giving the contract to one organization. It's going to be one corporation. So we didn't have a choice when we're calling them, and we wanted to know what to expect. Before I give you my social security card and I fill out the application, how much money will I make? What will my benefits be? I don't know about you guys, but those are basics, right? Like, when you apply for a job, you are entitled to know those two things, correct?
Should be.
Yeah. It's New York State law, actually. It's called wage transparency. And so they would say, we don't have to tell you. You don't have to tell me how much money I'm going to make. And some people are making less. That is against the law. They can't say, give me your social security card, fill out this application, and when you're all onboarded, then we'll tell you what you're going to make, because that's not how things work. You're supposed to be informed. Before somebody even posts a job opening, they're supposed to know all of those things. And what PPL has done, it's on the fly. That's the only way I can explain it. Their benefits package has changed like 13 times. It's like the way they describe it, what they call it, it keeps changing. Because when it was first announced, we were panicked, and like rightfully so, because the way they had it set up, you didn't have a choice and you couldn't opt out. And if you were on like marketplace insurance and your employer offered you something, you would get bumped off your good insurance and have to take this real crap insurance from PPL. I mean, do you have any information on what that looks like that you could share?
Unfortunately, I don't. But what I do know is from the water cooler hour, a lot of people are saying you get nothing from it. It's just
nothing's
a visit.
covered.
And
yeah.
nothing's covered. And that's it. To me, that's not health insurance. That's just them doing
taking your
minimum.
money. I mean, it's
Right.
$200 a month or something like that you're paying to get their health insurance, and it's like a $6,100 or $6,100 deductible. But the company that they selected, this is important for the audience to understand, because this is why we're frustrated. They came in, they're a monopoly, they're not doing a great job with pay, And then they finally pick the insurance company, and it's Anthem. And they are like notorious. No one answers the phone. The legitimate claims are not paid. So they had a news channel did a segment in my area, and there was a local family that was very, very upset because they needed the health care. The mom and the dad were caregivers, and they both needed it. They had health needs, and they were told, don't worry about it. They ended their COBRA, which was really expensive, and they start this insurance. Their doctor's office won't even let them come in. They said that the insurance the PPL selected is so hard to work with that they can't be patients at their doctor's office anymore. I mean, this is who heard of benefits that don't benefit you? I mean, these are like benefits that discourage you so that you quit. And maybe that's just the real goal.
Talk about fraud and abuse. Which is why, I'm sorry, I'm laughing. Which is why we have PPL to begin with, because our governor was like, I'm getting rid of all your trusted FIs and sticking with this one because of fraud and abuse. The only fraud and abuse I see here is PPL.
Yeah, no, it's true. And you think about, there was this other crazy news story. I know people think that me and Larissa are making this stuff up, but it was the FBI is now involved because somebody at PPL was taking the paychecks that were coming in and diverting them from the caregiver bank accounts and sending them overseas. They were quite literally robbing us, okay? I mean, wage theft is a felony. They have to pay you right, and they have to pay you on time. They're not doing that a lot of the time. But they were downright robbing people, taking their paychecks and sending them overseas. The FBI is involved, the Department of Justice involved, CMS, all these federal level office departments are here knocking on our door. And her governor's statement, her office said something like, aren't you glad that we have PPL? Because with one FI, this is so much easier to deal with. I thought, they're the ones robbing us. We are not happy that they're our choice. I mean, she's still defending it. And that is infuriating because most sane people who want to get reelected would take a step back and say, wow, this is really chaos. Like, people are really getting hurt. And maybe that's what we should end with today, is to really talk about the human impact. We've been laughing and kind of making it a joke. And guys, we almost have to, because if we let ourselves feel every emotion, we'd probably be crying, right? Like, we would be very emotional and upset. And so for me, humor is a way that I get through things. But it is so important that the last part of our show, we talk about the real human impact. And when Jose was on one of our episodes way back when, Steve, he was talking about how he was going to have a really difficult conversation with his caregivers and ask them, will you stay if you make less money? And at that point, we didn't even know what the wage would be. We didn't know if it would be lower. And in some regions, it's much lower. People are making $2 to $3 less each hour than they were before. And now they can't even have the insurance that the old FI gave them. They lost all their PTO. That's very traumatic. That's difficult. And a lot of people quit, right? They didn't want to deal with this, and I can't blame them. But then the people that are in your position, maybe it would be best if we just start by telling the audience a little bit about your situation and why CDPAP is important to you.
So I've had CDPAP for 17 years. I got it almost right out of high school, and I've had it ever since. My former FI was fantastic. If there ever was a problem, fixed it right away, no issue. But now with PPL, there's that, will my aides get paid? Will they get paid correctly? Will things get so bad that we'll have to move to traditional healthcare? Which, with CDPAP, you have the choice to choose and hire who you want to care for you. That's an option with CDPAP. With traditional home care, you have a stranger come in who you don't know, who doesn't know your routine or how you like to be taken care of, and they do their job and then leave.
Right. And you don't set the
I don't want
schedule,
that.
right? Like
Right.
consumer directed, you're deciding who's in your home, who's going to bathe me. Guys, think about that. Like, these are deeply personal tasks that they're helping with. Toileting, eating. These are not things that you want a stranger coming in and doing. And the thing with traditional home care, you could have a great agency. There are wonderful agencies. It's very hard to get into them, though, if I'm being honest. They have a workforce crisis that's extreme. So most people went to CDPAP because they couldn't get into traditional home care. So if we think about that, lots of people migrated over with their caregivers. When this started going on, I think it was 77,000 people went from consumer directed to the traditional home care model. That was because they could bring their caregivers with them. If they had just tried to do that before and didn't have caregivers lined up, there's no way those agencies could have absorbed that many people. And New York State is spending, on average, $20,000 more for each person each year because they went to a more expensive care model. That didn't save us money. Bankrupting our local businesses and sending all their staff to be on unemployment, that didn't save us money either. So how is she still digging in her heels? You know, like, you think the governor, and you think she's so defensive right now, and she's making it sound like it was still a really solid decision. So let's talk about what happens, like when Jose said, I'm going to have a really hard conversation. The other thing he said, Steve, and I don't know if you remember this, is, I don't want my son to have to make an appointment to see me in a nursing home. And that just stuck with me. Like, you shouldn't have to leave your family home because of the changes that are happening. So do you have any stories about some of the heartache or the sad things that kind of unfolded that we kind of knew were going to happen, but now they're actually happening?
For me, which I talked to you briefly about this, I had someone a few months ago, she was like, why don't you move out of state? To Seattle or wherever I said at the time. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I shouldn't feel like I have to do that.
We shouldn't have to run away from our hometown, right?
Right. Especially if we don't want to right now. Like, there's no need. Like, I want to stay and fight, not just for me, but for other people in the program that don't have that option to leave if they wanted to.
Right. And most people are not going to uproot their whole life and move to another state and try to get into their systems. Steve and I interviewed somebody a couple weeks ago, and she talked about just moving from Pennsylvania to New York. What a dramatic shift it was, and how, you know, I'm sure our audience knows if they ever tried to move, you have to get into all different systems and the eligibility, and running away from a problem doesn't solve it. New York State used to be a leader in disability rights. We used to be the benchmark. And now we're ranked last in the nation when it comes to EI, early intervention. We're ranked last when it comes to certified housing. Like, we're not hitting the mark. So for me, I went to the Olmsted listening session or whatever. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but for our audience, Olmsted was a civil rights case, and a landmark one at that, that said people should have the most integrated setting possible that meets their needs. So instead of forcing people into nursing homes, we were giving them options, resources, support, so they could stay in their family home and stay in their community. And I went and I spoke because I thought, I want my testimony to be on the public record. And now we have that same opportunity with the CDPAP Senate hearing. We will include the link so you know where to send your testimony. But we really hope you'll take this opportunity. You have until August 18th to include your voice. I know that there have been people whose caregivers have quit. I'm going to get emotional, but I'm going to just go through it, and then you guys can help me close out the show. But when their caregivers quit, they knew they still needed care, but they wouldn't call 911. Because they knew if they called 911, they would get stuck at the hospital. Just for context for people who might not have ever been in this situation, if you don't have caregivers, the hospital can't discharge you home because it's not safe. They have to ensure that you're going to have people and supports at home, that you won't be in crisis. They can't release you until it's a safe discharge. So they knew, these people that I'm speaking about knew that if they called 911, they would get stuck and maybe get sent back to the nursing home that took them years to get out of. And they chose not to. And one of my friends did die in his home. He died on his terms, but he didn't have to. You know, like if we had a system that wasn't destabilized and strained like this, he would still be here today. I firmly believe that. And the hardest part is people in CDPAP do have medical conditions. So it's easy to say, oh, he succumbed to, like, that's what we expected to happen, blah, blah, blah. Really, he probably would still be here if all his caregivers had been paid, if he had been able to make the transition. Lots of people are in his situation. I know that there's been a lot of different cases. They're very sensitive, and that's why I'm not bringing up names and I'm not being too specific, guys, because families' hearts are breaking. They are literally breaking because people are dying as a consequence to a policy change, one that we didn't study. We didn't benchmark with other states. We didn't let the comptroller get involved.
More importantly, we didn't ask for this.
No.
We didn't ask for this. It was forced upon us.
And when you look at the fraud rate that was happening before, when we had our old FIs, I think the calculations are that it was like 4,000 hours that were billed incorrectly the entire time that CDPAP has been around. We're talking decades. And now PPL has been here for a few months, and already we're getting robbed, like quite literally robbed. Our money's going overseas. We're having felony level wage theft happening. And our governor is still telling us, isn't this a great plan? Like, don't you love that we picked PPL? It's just it's this unsettling feeling that we're not being heard, but worse, that we're not being heard because we're not a priority in New York State right now. Like, and we know that, right? At a budget time, we know we're not the priority. So instead of concentrating on all the horrible things that have happened, because they almost feel unreal. Like as I'm listing these off, they don't even feel like they could be possible. I want everybody to dig deep inside and think, what do I want my elected officials to know? What do I want them to think about when they're back in session and they have to do something? Because this is your chance to be part of the public record. I want people, like in the history books, when they look back at this and say, look what Heather Burroughs wrote. You know, like look at the pain that she had, and she was strong, and she knew what she needed. Because we all have a voice. It's just sometimes we're afraid to use it. And if people are afraid of retaliation, if they think that if they say something, it could make it worse, if we say nothing, they're going to steamroll us, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we can't just sit here quietly. I don't know.
Silence is complicit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I said that right, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Steve, do you have any closing words for us?
Yeah, Larissa, look, thank you for coming on here. I hope the senators are listening for you. A couple quick things. We're adopting a 17-year-old. By the time we get him out of the system, he's probably going to be 21. He's got multiple disabilities. He's going to need CDPAP services down the road. I'm not doing it right now. My mother is, and some people that I know have it. But this child that's in our home will need that service down the road. So I hope they fix that. But I wanted to give another reference from a business viewpoint, a whole different take. I've had multiple businesses I owned, and I would not want to be in a position with no competition. And the reason is because it made me better as a business owner to have competition, to know that I could serve my customers better. It made me better, and I actually was in a couple similar situations, and it makes you better. And so, however this all went down, I'm old school. I believe that there should have been multiple bids out there and multiple people having an opportunity to bid this, because competition breeds security, and it breeds that things are going to be successful, and especially for the customer. And you're the customer, and I hope that this works out for you. I'll be rooting for you on the 18th,
Thank
Larissa
you.
and Heather, when you go to and testify. And you guys got to pave the way, because, like I said, I'm not involved personally yet. I will be in a few years, but it doesn't mean I'm not listening and paying attention to you guys, and how this is all playing out.
And one of the other big picture things that I want everybody to think about is if they can do this to 700,000 New Yorkers in broad daylight, they're not trying to hide what's happening, right? Like they're just doing it.
Yeah.
What's next?
And let me say this, Heather, and so PPL has been in other states, right? They've been in many other states, lawsuits, problems. If it hasn't worked in other states, okay? It has not worked in other states. So why bring it here?
And I'm going to bring this right down to what Bruce Darling says, guys. He is local to me. He works at the Center for Disability Rights, and he sounded the alarms very early on. He's one of the independent living centers. And originally what we thought was going to happen is we'd have like a safety net of FIs. There would be kind of like how care managers are, Steve, like the CCOs. You wouldn't have 600, but you'd have at least a couple to choose from in your region. So if you didn't like one, you could switch to the other. There would be incentive to improve services so you could keep your consumers. But PPL is a for-profit corporation. They have no desire to pay us more, pay us on time, give us the bonuses that we were promised, because they'll make less money. In a true smash and grab, fashion here, every PPL leadership role, they've all resigned. Okay, like the first quarter of business is just ending and they're gone. They smashed and grabbed, they got rich and ditched. They're done, because that's what they do. So thank you for bringing up the pattern of this. PPL and other organizations, this is what they do. They come in, they drive out all the local competition. They make as much money as they can that first quarter, and then they ditch, because eventually every state fires PPL. Every single state does, because they really do a bad job, right? And eventually you have to, face the music, or whatever that expression is. So, but they did what New York hired them to do. And that one quote that PPL had is, "We are doing what the state intended us to do." I thought that's the first honest thing I have heard them say. Yes, they are. They're driving down enrollment. And for the governor, she can say, look, we're spending less on CDPAP. But she's not telling you how many people are living in a hospital, or how many people got forced into a nursing home, or how many people are on unemployment now. She's not mentioning those numbers, because she didn't save us money and she didn't save lives. This is really costing us a lot more than money.
Right. And she loves to say, your family's my fight. I'd say, no, it's not.
She's fighting my family. I have to be honest. I feel pretty beat up.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you, Larissa, because I don't know if everybody can appreciate when you take the time to sit down and have a conversation with Steve and I. We're a safe place, right? But you're doing this publicly. You're sharing part of your story. You're being very honest and vulnerable. And I applaud you for that, because if we are so modest or humble or private and we don't share our stories because we don't want to be embarrassed, or we don't want people to know how hard things are, or whatever the case may be, maybe we don't even just want to be pitied. No one's going to pity you, girlfriend. Okay? Like you are speaking up. You are empowered, and you do everything you can to stay on top of the information. Lots of people will bury their head in the sand. They'll just be overwhelmed. They'll quit. They'll do without. And you haven't done that. And I'm so proud of you for that. And you just got another extension with your contract with Carrying Majority, if I'm right, correct?
Yes.
which is such a big deal. You're giving back. You're getting a paycheck. You get to do something that's important to you.
For the first time, actually. No, so with Caring Majority, this is my first actual part-time job. So because I'm on SSI, I have limitations.
Mm-hmm.
So they're willing to work with me with that. So I'm very thankful.
And you're
that.
finding a way, you found a position that's perfect for you, because not only are you earning income and being a productive member of society, you're giving back to a community that's really underserved. And we are scared right now. So thank you, because I know you have been essential in the water cooler hour. You've started a lot of the different initiatives so people didn't feel alone. So if the audience is listening and they think, I have nothing to do with home care, that has nothing to do with my story, listen to the part with Larissa, okay? She has found a position that she can work and she can give back. She found a way to bring people together so we could all talk and feel like we weren't alone. You can do that for whatever problem you guys are facing in your own community, in your own backyard. It doesn't have to be home care. It can be anything. Just be empowered. I hope that everybody hears this interview with you, Larissa, and they get like, we can be a little angry. You know, we have a bad situation, but meeting people like you and seeing what you're doing, I think it really helps me. I don't know. How do you feel, Steve?
Yes, look, there's nothing better than self-advocacy. My son just spoke up for the first time a week or two ago at ADA Day. He's 35 years old. He finally got his voice. So keep doing what you're doing, Larissa.
He did.
Keep doing what you're doing.
That's amazing. I will. Thank you.
Thanks. And we will include some links with this description so you guys know how to hand in your testimony, how to be heard. And we want to thank you one more time. And we hope that everybody will, when we post this, and you'll see it in reels, you'll see it in different ways because we're trying to make this really digestible for people. But comment, share it. Even if it doesn't apply to you directly, let people know that you watched this and it made you feel something, because I got to be honest, that's the thing that keeps me up at night. I think, how can this be happening to us? Like, quite literally, why is everybody watching this happen and it's still going on? Like, I'm glad the feds are involved. I know that's like a controversial thing to say, but New York State was not protecting us. The population they were supposed to serve was the population they were hurting. And if the federal government has to slap their hand, then they do. But I really hope that instead, when we get to this Senate hearing, they will see all that written testimony. They will hear the oral testimony that day, and they'll decide they want to do something different, that they want to be on the right side of history. Why would our legislators want to be part of this? Like, they're going to be the official body that made this happen. There's liability in that, but there's also disgrace in that. And I hope it resonates with people. And I really appreciate you coming on today to share that part of your story and encourage people. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Continue the conversation by joining our Facebook group. If you're a fan of the show, please join our supporters club. Subscribe on YouTube, rate and review on your favorite listening app, but most of all, share it with your friends. Just one more click or comment can make a huge difference and help us to continue finding common ground.